I was okay with looking like a fool in front of a bunch of guys who were way more skilled than me, way more fit than me. They had the skills that I wanted to develop, and I just didn't let that stop me. I was okay with being the slowest one there, because not only could I not pass the swim, I couldn't pass the pull-ups, I couldn't pass the run, I couldn't pass any of that stuff. I guess I had to put my pride aside and realize that, all right, I'm the low man on the totem pole, and the only way for me to get to where I want or where I need to get to is for me to walk into this environment and be around people who have the skills and the mindset and the things that I want.
Welcome to Mindset Lessons from the Field. I'm Gina Cazazza, the author of the upcoming memoir, Training with a SEAL. Today's guest was a SEAL for 12 years. As a SEAL, he was a breacher. When he retired in 2019, he started the 3 of 7 project together with his brother, where they help others become the most complete versions of themselves. I need that. He is an ultra runner by day, an entrepreneur by night. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited for this guest. Without further introduction, Chadd Wright. Chadd, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
It's my pleasure, Gina. Yeah, and I'm a listener to the show. I listened to the episode you did with David and also with his father, Mike. I'm just so thankful for what you're doing with this platform and the energy that you bring and the great questions that you ask. You're doing wonderful things, and I'm happy and thankful to be a part of it today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I have listened to a lot of yours. I've been following you for a number of years, actually. And I get very inspired by you. I love a lot of the stuff that you say. I find it really helps motivate me. So I want to just dive right in. I want to talk about the beginning of when you decided you want to become a SEAL. You were in construction and it just wasn't for you. You were just like, I want something more out of life. And, you decided, let me go be a SEAL, which I think is really amazing. And, the thing though, you failed the physical test dozens of times and you just kept going back week after week after week for 4 months. And I want to know, how do you mentally stay locked in? And how do you channel, maybe frustration was coming in? I don't know, maybe it wasn't, but how do you turn that into perseverance instead of letting it hold you back?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think that when I decided to pursue this journey and do this thing that, was the biggest thing and supposed to be the hardest thing that I could possibly endeavor to do, I think I was okay with the fact that I wasn't good enough to go and do that thing. I knew that about myself. I knew I couldn't swim. I couldn't swim a single lap in the swimming pool. I was okay with that. I had accepted that from the moment I decided this is the path that I wanted to take, or at least try to take in my life. I knew that in order for me to become better, I was going to have to walk into an environment and be around people who were a lot better than I was. That's a really hard step to take, because I'll never forget when I first went to take that PST. I'll never forget walking into the Cobb Aquatic Center to take a swimming test. That's part of the test, is a 500-meter swim, knowing that I couldn't swim. And doing that in front of a real live Navy SEAL. My SEAL mentor, his name was Frank Cutler. I was okay with looking like a fool in front of a bunch of guys who were way more skilled than me, way more fit than me. They had the skills that I wanted to develop, and I just didn't let that stop me. I was okay with being the slowest one there, because not only could I not pass the swim, I couldn't pass the pull-ups, I couldn't pass the run, I couldn't pass any of that stuff. I guess I had to put my pride aside and realize that, all right, I'm the low man on the totem pole, and the only way for me to get to where I want or where I need to get to is for me to walk into this environment and be around people who have the skills and the mindset and the things that I want. So I think just having humility in the very beginning helped me tremendously to keep showing up week after week, even though I knew I was going to fail. I knew I wasn't good enough, but I knew that this was the only path to getting better, was to be around these people who were better than me. I try to even apply that, well, I do apply that same mindset I have throughout my life. It's even today, if your business is the same size as my business, I don't want to talk about business with you. Like, if you can run the same pace that I run, like, I don't want to go run with you. I want to go run with people who are faster than me. I want to talk business with people who, I walk into a meeting with them and they've done so much more than me that I feel like a fool, in their presence and talking about this specific, whether it's business or fitness or whatever. So that helped me keep showing back up, just being okay with failing, being okay with being the slowest guy there, being okay with knowing that I was going to fail. How I was able to do that, I don't know the secret sauce. I mean, it's really just a conscious decision to set aside your pride and go and endeavor to put yourself in an environment where you're going to feel a little bit silly about being there. And then over time, you begin to feel like you belong, right? Because you begin to pick up those skills. You begin to build relationships. You over time, everything takes time, and you just start to feel like, okay, I belong here, and you start to make progress little by little by little, and that's really the only way to level up and in anything. And if you're super prideful and you say, I don't want to be around people who are better than me because I don't want to feel less than them, you're never really going to grow, And I think that was the key for me in those early years, showing up to take that PST and failing over and over again.
The biggest thing I learned from what you just said is the importance of being vulnerable and how that plays a part in being resilient. Because that's essentially, to be able to go there knowing that you're not good enough, knowing that you're not gonna make it, but being vulnerable to get through it, and then go back and go back and go back. That's very, very powerful. And I want to then move to the next part. You finally, you passed the test 4 months later, right? You have to go to Navy boot camp. Last day of Navy boot camp, you're told you got to go to medical, told that you had a cyst on your heart and that you can't become a SEAL. And you ended up being able to get out, and you decided to go find a surgeon that would do this surgery because you went to 3 doctors and they said no, because it's so rare, it's so undone. So what I want to know is, when life tells you no repeatedly, right? And especially when the so-called experts are saying no, right? And the risk that you're putting yourself through with that cyst on your heart and going through the surgery and how it's so rare, how do you find the strength to believe that yes is still possible?
Before I really talk through this, I don't want people to think that was easy for me. When I got kicked out of the Navy because of this pericardial cyst, I went through a period of significant depression. Like when I got back home, it wasn't like I got back home to my little hometown in Georgia, moved back in with my mom and dad. I didn't have anything. I had gotten rid of my truck and all my clothes, and I just showed back up to this place that I never thought I was going to have to, be at again. Man, it was hard. Like, it wasn't like I showed up there and was just like immediately hard charging, looking for this way to overcome this pericardial cyst that was disqualifying me from ever becoming a SEAL. There was, I would say, weeks and weeks, if not a few months, of really significant depression, just feeling super lost and confused and isolating myself, not wanting to connect with anyone. I think that's part of the process, man. I really do. I think that's part of the process is you have to go and experience these low points, and you have to understand when you're there, you're not going to stay there forever. Going through that, I had people around me that were kind of supporting me through that. Mainly my mother and my now wife. Her name is Brooke. She was my girlfriend back then, and we were just kids, obviously, but we loved each other. We always have loved each other, and my mother has always really loved me and supported me and encouraged me. And so luckily they kind of helped me through that period of depression, and they were just there for me. Like, they would talk to me and encourage me at times, and I think it was my mom who actually first started encouraging me to go and kind of talk. Let's make some appointments and see if we can find a surgeon who can fix this thing. I mean, I give her a lot of credit. She's such a strong woman. My mom is such a strong woman. Like, it's unbelievable how strong women are. That's a whole nother podcast. I train people. I've never had a female quit any of my training missions, but I've had hundreds of males quit. It's unbelievable. And so I appreciate that, and I credit my mom and her strength a lot to the path that I've been able to take in life. Once I found a surgeon and realized that, okay, this is something that we can actually electively remove from my heart. Once I found that, like, I started to get hungry again to achieve this goal. Like, once I could kind of see, like, almost, okay, there's like a chance. Like this, there might be a chance, and I'm going to pursue that chance. And here's the opportunity that I have to have this surgery. I'm going to go and have that surgery electively. But now after the surgery, even if it goes well, we don't know if the Navy's going to let me back in. So like I'm taking a lot of chances. Like, I'm pursuing these things that are just chances, and they're costing me a lot. They're causing a lot of pain. They're costing me a lot of money. It's not an easy process. Once I had the heart surgery, and then I kind of heal up from that, and I'm able to reach back out to the Navy and kind of get that process rolling. As that kind of keeps rolling, and I'm realizing, okay, maybe this is more than a chance. Maybe I'm actually going to get back into the Navy. Like, I just get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier to the point that when it became a reality for me that, okay, I am signed off, I'm going to SEAL training now. At that point, literally nothing could stop me. Nothing. And I tell people all the time, if I would have went to SEAL training that first time, if I would not have had that cyst on my heart, I know who I was. And I would not have made it through SEAL training because it was harder than I could have ever imagined it being. I wasn't ready. I would not have made it through, period. But because that process, having it taken from me, that extreme low, that period of depression, that suffering through that, and then suffering through the pain and discomfort of the heart surgery, and then going through the process of getting back in the Navy, and like, it's that process, it's that adversity made me who I needed to be in order to actually get through the thing that I had to accomplish to achieve my goal. Without all that, there's no way I would have made it. And that's the honest truth. So it was just enduring that process, taking a lot of chances, and pursuing every single angle that I could possibly pursue, even though I wasn't sure that, it was going to produce the outcome that I was trying to achieve. It was taking a risk, I mean, I could have very easily had that heart surgery in the Navy. The Navy's really picky, man. They could have still just said, nah, I understand, but no, we're not. It took them 6 months just to sign off the waiver after the heart surgery, and I was back in the Navy. Man, you got to be patient. That took a lot of patience. I'd say that's the foundational element that got me through that period of time. is just being patient with that process and not giving up and taking risk and taking chances and pursuing every single angle that I could possibly find to pursue to find a way over this daggone mountain that had been placed in front of me, you know?
Yeah, and I want to talk well, you said something that I need to know for my own curiosity before I go into the next part of my question, but you mentioned coach many people. What do you think it is that keeps females from sticking through it, and what do you think it is with males that quit?
I think females are generally better team members or teammates because they're not hesitant to ask for help. Whereas a male, when I run missions out here, you know, we do, one of my missions is called a rite of passage. It's a 24-hour basically hike through the mountains of Northwest Georgia. You're not allowed to stop. And, you know, a male will come into this thing thinking, I'm going to get through this on my own. I'm going to carry my own weight. I'm not going to ask for help. I'm just going to get through this. I'm going to grind through it. And he ends up running himself into the ground because he won't look around. He won't lean on his teammates. He won't ask them for help because generally that's the way men think when they haven't been trained, when they don't understand what it means to be in a team. Very few people out here in the civilian world have ever even really been part of a team that's doing something difficult, like really difficult. So they don't understand it. But a female, she will not only help the person beside her, but if she needs help, she's more likely to ask for help. And then that allows them individually to go further, but it also allows the team to go further and faster. If everybody on the team will be willing to support each other, and everybody on the team is willing to ask for help when they need help, then that's when that team becomes an unstoppable force and you just can't stop them. They'll go until they die. So I think that's one of the big reasons. They just tend to have less, ego than a male student. And then I also just think there's something about how God made a female's mind. A female's mind is different than a male. A female's mind is just somehow inherently more trained than a man's mind. Females mature faster. I think that's a fact. But even at adulthood, even me as a male, I had to go through a lot of repetitions to kind of callous my mind or train my mind. Traditionally, I see females being able to endure more adversity in terms of physical pain than a male can. And it's just something about the makeup of the way that they think. I can't explain it. I'm sure there's some science out there behind it. No, and nobody wants to touch these topics either, man, because nobody wants to draw a line between male and female. We want to act like we're all the same. We're not the same, man. Females have some tremendous strengths that males don't have, and males have some strengths that females don't have. We each have our own unique way that we contribute to the family, to the business, to the team, whatever it is. And we should be talking about these and identifying them so that we can, the point is to move the team, not the individual, it's to move the team, Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you asked that question. It's something that I'm really passionate about. And I wish I had the opportunity to train more females. I mean, my students are only maybe 20, not even probably, maybe 20% max females that I get. And maybe it's just because I'm a big, scary looking bearded guy.
No, I had to ask that question because it does bother me a lot when people want to, as a female, want to make me equal to a man or compare that we're the same when we're not. And I think that if there is any females listening and they want to join Chadd in this program, I will join you as well. And maybe we could do like a female thing or something like that, because that does sound extremely challenging. It's something that I know I'm going to struggle with, but I know that the end is going to be so rewarding. And what I want to ask you, going through buds, because of the swim, doggy paddle was the best you had until the military. Phase 2 is so demanding with that swim. Like, how did you prepare for that? And were there anything that you really struggled with in that section?
Yeah, I struggle with the every aspect of the water in buds. But I think in phase two, what I really learned is the key in the water is just staying relaxed or staying calm. And once I realized that that was the key, no matter what was happening, that I just had to calm my mind down, like intentionally, like self-talk, right? You have to be real conscious of every thought that you're allowing to kind of float around in your head. And these, when you're underwater and things get stressful and you're running out of air, obviously you're getting bombarded with these thoughts that are trying to panic you. And you have to be very conscious of those. And when they try to work their way in, you have to shut them down. Like you have to choose to think something positive, or choose to think something that's going to calm you down. Choose to focus on the task at hand and not these 100 different things that are trying to work their way into your mind to panic you. That was the key for me going through second phase. We have a thing in second phase, that was a very critical phase for me too, because there's an evolution in second phase called pool competency. And a lot of guys get dropped from training. It's kind of the last filter in SEAL training where you can get performance dropped, and it's basically up to the instructor. It's a really vague test. That was probably one of the most stressful times in all of BUDS for me, was pool comp, because you only get 3 tries at it. And so you get 2 tries on a Friday. And on Friday, I got my 2 tries and I failed both times. And then you get the weekend, and then you get to come back on Monday and try to take it one more time. And I passed on my last try on Monday. So water was a struggle for me. Cold water, I still hate cold water to this day. And again, it's being hyper aware of your self-talk. If you're not underwater, the best way to combat that negative self-talk is speaking something out loud that is positive in nature. I talk to myself all the time when things get hard, and I do that because I believe the spoken word is very, very powerful, and it's a great way to combat that negative self-talk. I learned most of those skills and how important those things are in SEAL training, and specifically second phase, because it was probably the hardest phase for me to endure.
Let's talk about calm and being calm, and how did you really, because I want to know how you did it. Not only stayed calm, but not got so much in your head when the pressure's on. Like when I know from school, you had these big tests that you had to take, and there was so much pressure that, we put on ourselves. You had this was your last shot. And it's I get that you practiced like crazy, but how do you mentally prepare yourself from failing twice?
The best way to stay calm, or the best way to mentally prepare yourself, is to not think ahead and not think behind. The best way, if you're in that moment, okay, it's your last chance to do this thing. Well, you need to be focused. You need to be so present. The ability to stay present is a superpower that I don't know. I'm really good at it, and I don't know if it's through repetition or what, but I do so good. I thrive in chaos because I'm really good at staying present. There's a documentary called Just 1 Mile that's on Amazon Prime, where I win this ultra marathon. It's a great film. Everybody should go watch it. It's awesome, not just because of me, but because of the people there. And we run this 1 mile loop until everyone else quits and only one person's left. And so I think I ran 32 hours. And everybody's like, how did you... Everybody assumes that I won that race 2 years in a row because I was more fit than anyone else there. That's so not true. I'm running against guys that have way better resumes than me as a runner. I'm able to win that race year after year because I'm able to focus on the single mile that I have to run in order to stay in the race. I never think about the last mile I ran, and I never think about the next mile that I have to run. And I just stay super present. That's what I did in Buds. That was all. I didn't read the books. I didn't watch the movies. I know guys that I went through Buds with, they wanted to know the schedule for the week. They
I
knew
laugh
when,
because that's me.
yeah, they knew when every evolution was going to be over the course of the whole 6 months. Like, I didn't know, man. Like, all I wanted to know is I just wanted somebody to tell me, well, okay, where are we going now? Like, where are we going? Okay, and that was all I focused on. It quiets your mind, It doesn't allow your mind to get overcrowded with thinking about what ifs or thinking about mistakes that you've made in the past. Yeah, you should learn from mistakes, and you should take those lessons and you should file them away, and it should influence and change the way that you act in the future and the way you operate in the future. But once you identify the lesson and you implement it and you put it in that filing cabinet in your mind, you don't need to think about that mistake yesterday again or last month or whatever, or in pool comp, the time I failed twice on Friday. Like, I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm just like, all right, I have to pass this. This is what we're focusing on. Let's get it done.
See, that's my issue. Like, I want to know the plan. I want to know where we're going. I want to know where and I overthink. So it's because I'm thinking all the time. I'm overthinking, and I need the plan. I need to know. And I will say it's starting to cripple me because I am at a point where I'm like feeling I know where I'm going, right? But I'm hitting so many failures, right? And I'm so in my head because I am thinking, okay, well, I got to do this to get me here. But then you forget that life is not linear, right? And then also what you think is going to take like a week takes like 3 weeks, especially when for you, like you had to wait 6 months for the answer on if you're going to go into the Navy. Like, those 6 months for me would have been hell on earth. I mean, just because I'm waiting for somebody else. Like, I'm the type of person that like needs to take action. And if you're not taking action with me, then goodbye. Like, I got places to be. My life is short. So like, how would you like talk to somebody like me who thinks and is overthinking? And I feel like it's part of the female brain. I mean, it's kind of what we do. So we're planners. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, so I would say two things. One of the only ways to be able to focus or stay present, like focus on what you have to do, the only way to be able to train your mind to do that is by way of repetition. So that's what I love about ultra running. And if you run a 100-mile race, like it will force you to learn what it means to be present. There's going to be a moment in that 100-mile race where you come to the realization, if I don't stop thinking ahead, like you're at 40 miles and your legs hurt and your body hurts so bad and you've been running for 10 straight hours and you've got 60 miles left to go, like you're going to come to a moment where you realize if I don't stop thinking ahead, I'm not going to make it. And you have no other choice. And you just have, I literally verbally tell myself, like when I catch my mind starting to drift ahead, I just verbally say, nope, stay present. Stay present. I talk to myself. And so those repetitions, putting yourself in these situations and in these environments intentionally, that they're going to get way harder than you want it to get. There's going to be a point where you don't want to do said activity anymore. That's the point you're trying to get to when you train. Because it's everything after that that's forcing your mind to grow and you to grow, and it's forcing you to change and become someone who you're not. Now, the more you do these things, the harder it is to get to that point. You know, I had to do a race last year. I did a race that was 250 miles. And that's what it took to get me to that point. Like a 100-mile race doesn't do that for me anymore. I could just go out and run it and win it. I had to go run a 250-mile race, and I got to a point at 150 miles, and I said, I got to run another 100 miles? And that was that point where I had to say, all right, I've got to practice being present here, or I'm not going to make it. So repetition is one way to learn how to reel your mind in and force yourself to live in the moment. And with enough repetitions, it becomes your default. Another thing that I would say is somebody does have to be thinking ahead in business and in real life. You have to hire somebody for that. Because for me, in my business, I'm the person that shows up and does the speaking engagement, right? In front of 5,000 people. You know, I'm the person that has to show up and in front of the camera, in front of the students on training day. The way that I'm able to stay in this creative role and in this way that I can just show up with the full passion. The way I'm able to do that is because I have people on my team that their job is to think ahead and to take care of all the other stuff that needs to be done. I just get to stay present, and it allows me to be who I'm supposed to be within this team, within this business, within this company. It allows me to be that person. Because I can't be that person if I'm also keeping up with QuickBooks. Or I can't, I wouldn't show up as Chadd, you know? And so you have to bring people around you who, they're not the person who's going to be the face of what's happening. Most of them are okay with that. Most people don't want to be the face, right? But if you're going to be the face of it, if you're going to be leading the charge and you're going to be the one that the customer sees, you're going to be the one who has to bring that passion and that ingenuity and that creativity. Don't think for a minute that you can do it all. You flat out can't do it all. You just can't do it. Nobody can. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how well you manage your time. It doesn't matter, because it's draining you mentally. You know what I mean? But if you got someone on your team, Gina, that's like, no, you just show up and speak. You just write. You just be creative. You just, look, that's your job. I'm going to worry about taxes. I'm going to worry about the paperwork. I'm going to worry about passwords and all this crap, That's what you're trying to work toward. That's where I'm at today. And you don't have to have a lot of people. I mean, 3 of 7 Project's only a 4-man team, including me. You don't have to have a ton of people. And the hard part I think about that is letting go, like relinquishing control. Because you have to relinquish control of those things to those people. That can be difficult, even though you shouldn't be doing that job. You don't want to relinquish control in the beginning. It's really weird. It's a really weird process, man. That's 2 ways to become more present and to be better at what it is you're supposed to be doing.
Let's talk about the person that in the beginning, when you go to start something, it's you. If you're going to be an author, you're writing the book, right? You're thinking about your business, you're starting it, right? And sometimes we don't have the funds to have a certain team player, right? And what would you say to someone who feels like they've given everything to their dream, right? Of whatever it is that they're choosing, right? But they keep falling short.
Well, I guess first I would say don't give up, because any goal that's worth achieving, whether it's professionally or physically or whatever, is going to take longer than you want it to take. So when you're at this point where you're like, I've been at this way longer than I thought I was going to have to be at it, are way longer than I wanted to be at it, and I haven't achieved what I set out to achieve yet. Just understand that's the way it is. It's if it's a worthy goal, if it's not just something that, that's not really challenging you, it's going to take longer than you want it to take, and you just have to persist. And the way to persist is to be patient, to be present, and to be deliberate about the way you're utilizing your time. And then the second thing that I would say is you got to ask for help, man. If you're just starting out and you're going solo, you're probably going solo because you haven't asked for help. There are people around you who will come alongside you and help you. Like maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's a friend, but you haven't come to them and been like, hey, I'm just getting started and this is too much for me to do. Will you help me? And a lot of times those people will come alongside you and help you just because they love you. If that person doesn't exist, it might cost you something to get the help that you need. For me, I knew starting 307 Project, I knew I couldn't do it all. I reached out to my little brother and I said, hey man, I need you to be the person who runs this business. And I need to be who I was created to be. I told him up front, I said, I'm going to give you 50%. Wherever this thing goes, it's 50% yours. And so it might cost you something. If you're starting a business, you might have to go to someone and you may have to give them a percentage of ownership in this thing, and take that risk. And a lot of people don't want to do that, and it needs to be the right person because that's a long-term commitment. Don't be scared to ask for help. You got to do it. I
really, really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. And I want to talk about your transition because, as I say this on every show when I talk about the transition, that's a very hard period that everybody can relate to because we all have transitions in life. And how was that? And for you ended up medically retiring. So it wasn't technically on your terms. It was like, I found out that I have to retire. So, which I'm now going to make the assumption that being that you didn't plan for it and, being a SEAL is such an identity, right? That's who you were. Let's talk about that transition that you had and how you found a new purpose.
Yeah, you're right. It's not easy because you do identify with being a SEAL and being in the military, period. It's a lifestyle. Like it's who you are. It dictates every aspect of your life. You don't do the things you want to do. When I got out of the Navy, I didn't know what the world I was going to do. So I just tried something that I enjoyed. And I enjoyed cutting grass. All right. So I just picked something that, hey, I like cutting grass. I like being able to go out and take something that's all looking nasty and like clean it all up and make it look beautiful. And it's rewarding to me. It's relaxing to me. So I just picked something that I liked. And I said, okay, I'm going to try to make money doing this. And I went out and bought a little trailer and a zero-turn lawnmower. It was a very small investment, like $4,500. I didn't have any money either. I financed it. I financed the trailer and the lawnmower. Everything's going to cost you something, man. So that's what I did. I just picked something that I liked. I made an investment and I started cutting grass. And I cut grass for the whole summer, the first summer that I was out of the military. That was like, it began to open my mind up to this idea of entrepreneurship. Wow, like, okay, after one summer, I got a pretty good business going here. I could do this with anything. Like, whatever I want to do. It just like, it was like an epiphany. Like, wow, okay. Because the military doesn't teach you that, man. To be honest with you, the military stifles the entrepreneurial spirit. I'll be honest with you. The military doesn't want guys to know what they're capable of on the outside because that's the way the military protects their investment. I remember meeting with my command master chief when I was getting out of the Navy, and he like mockingly said to me like, "Oh yeah, what do you think you're going to do without the Navy?" But that's how they protect their investment. So this was something I had to learn. And I was ultra running at the same time and doing pretty well while I have my little grass cutting business. And a really successful entrepreneur reached out to me and asked if I would coach him in ultra running. And his name was Jesse Itzler. He's very, very successful entrepreneur. One of the best in our generation, I believe. I did not even know that people paid people to coach them. I just was like, well, here's this guy that wants to become a better runner, and he seems like a cool dude, and he's accomplished a lot. So yeah, I responded to him. I said, yeah, I'll fly out to your house in Connecticut, and we'll spend a weekend. I'll coach you, right? I went out there, spent the weekend with Jesse. He was stuck at like 30 miles. He couldn't run past 30 miles. We went out on one of the days I was with him, and we ran 50 miles together. And it's just because I taught him about the power of the spoken word, not giving your pain a voice. Like, don't complain. Yeah, your legs hurt. I don't care. If I ask you how you're doing, you can only respond with "I feel outstanding." Like really simple principles. And he was able to go from 30 miles to 50 miles, and he could have kept going. So Jesse and I became friends, and then he became a mentor to me. And mentors are very, very important, especially in a transition process. By the way, they're not going to fall into your lap, man. How do you find a good mentor? It takes work. You got to be out there doing cool stuff. For me, it was ultra running. You've got to be making the investment, challenging yourself, because that's going to put you in environments where these mentors exist. He became my mentor in entrepreneurship, just basically continued to fuel that fire in me. When I saw the simple things that I could teach Jesse, which by the way is a multi-hundreds of millions of dollars entrepreneur, but he didn't know about these simple tactics, techniques, and procedures, mindset stuff that I knew about. Like when I learned how valuable that stuff was, and he's the one that showed me, he's like, dude, the things that you taught me have now changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm like, I thought everybody knew this stuff. He was like, no, man, you got to teach other people this stuff. And that's kind of where 307 Project, the idea of 307 Project came about. The 3 stands for body, soul, and spirit, or body, mind, and spirit. And then the 7 is the biblical number for completion. And that's where the whole idea came about. Oh, okay, let's share this stuff with people. Let's share it. Let's provide an environment where they can implement it, and we're going to be there with them as they grow and as they implement these things in real time. And let's help them experience how much further they can actually go and how much more they can actually achieve than they ever thought they could. That's where it came from. Now, my buddy Jesse, he took me out on a podcast tour because we're becoming really good friends. He says, Chadd, I'm going to take you out to LA. He says, if you want to go, you come on with me. He said, but if you do this, your life is never going to be the same. I said, all right, let's do it. So we fly out to LA on a private jet. He takes me to all these guys that have these massive podcasts, Rich Roll, Lewis Howes. He's introducing me to all these massive platforms, and he's like ushering me in. He's putting word in for me, like, hey, Rich Roll, you need to have this guy on your podcast. Like, there was no way for me to get on Rich Roll's podcast. You know, without Jesse, without that friendship, without him as my mentor. And so I went and did these shows. Everything just blew up. It just blew up, man. And it's because of that relationship with Jesse. And also my willingness to go on these shows and to put myself out there. Because now that's another thing. When you come from a community like the SEAL teams, and then you choose to get out and pursue what I have pursued in the public space, there are a large number of people from that old community that will hate you. They hate you. I mean, the people that say the ugliest things about me are people from the SEAL teams. And I kind of understand it, but I can't comprehend it, man. I'm just trying to do what I do to help other people. Like, I want other people to have the tools to go further and to enjoy life and to get through hard times, right? That's been hard to overcome. It's been hard to overcome that. And but it's part of the game, man. Like, again, nothing in life is just easy and smooth, and the bigger you want to get and the further you want to go, the more adversity that you're going to experience in your own situation and outside of your own situation. And so that was kind of my transition. Mentors were very important. The willingness to go and share what I have to offer was very important. Utilizing other people's platforms when I didn't have a platform, that was very important. That's all hard work, man. It's all hard work, you know, and it costs you money too. Like, people just, I guess, aren't willing to do it. I don't know.
Gotta ask this question because I was listening to you talk about, I'm butchering this story, but it was something along the lines of like, where you connect to nature a lot. And you mentioned that you draw a lot from the law, like from your lessons and laws of nature or something, and how they also shape you, and you use those lessons and those laws. So what are some stuff from nature? Because it reminded me of the book Secret Life of Plants. And my teacher said to me, he's like, you need to go and learn to talk to the trees. And I'm like, trying. And I'm like getting out there. And I'm just like, what? So I need to know just from my own self.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I spend so much time in the woods, and I love getting as remote as possible. And you know, that's what David and I are doing a 1,000-mile kayaking race next year in the Yukon Territory in Alaska, which is the last frontier. And man, that's a whole nother podcast. Maybe we can all get together afterwards. But one of the things that you can learn from nature, and if you ever come and do my course called The Rite of Passage, where we do the 24 hours on your feet, moving through the mountains of Northwest Georgia, what you're going to realize is one of the laws of nature is the nighttime. It's the coldest and the darkest right before the sun rises. And you really experience that when you're out there for 24 straight hours. You get to this time, you know, 3:30, 4 in the morning, and it just gets cold and it's pitch dark, and you are more exhausted than you have been for any other time before that, right? And so you're the most exhausted. It's the coldest. It's the darkest. You don't ever think it's going to end. And then, if you will just endure, the sun rises. And when the sun rises, it gives you a whole new life, like a whole new energy. It's like it's a new day. And you're like, well, I could keep going. Well, just 2 hours ago, you didn't think you could take another step. And now the sun has risen, and you could keep going. I just think it's a great thing to take away from nature, because I believe that also applies to in real life, and especially in business. A lot of people, they quit in those coldest and darkest and hardest times when they've been going for so long and they're exhausted, and they look around them and they can't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and they just say, okay, this is it. I'm out. But if they would have just continued to press forward for just a short while longer, the sun would have risen, something would have changed, and they would have experienced the breakthrough that they had been waiting for so long. But they quit right on the cusp of that. That's just a great lesson that we take away from what we experience when we're outside doing hard things. And I think it translates into our life. I know it has into mine on so many occasions.
Now, for our final question of the show, what do you have for us that we could do on a daily to help build our resilience, build our grit, so we can find that courage to step into the uncomfortable?
Yeah, that's a great question. The foundational thing that has kept me going, especially over the course of the last decade. I've been through a lot in the last decade. A lot of stuff that was way harder than SEAL training, just real life stuff. What keeps me going now, the foundational element is hope. So if you don't have hope, seek hope first. All right? And I have found hope in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Hope in who that gospel says I am. That I'm a son of God, that I'm forgiven, that I'm justified by the blood of Christ and by faith in Christ. I've found hope that the world is not always going to be the way it is now. It's going to be restored. I have hope in eternal life. I have hope that I am loved by God with a perfect love that I can't even comprehend. So much, all of my hope is rooted in my faith in Jesus Christ. And that faith is a gift that I've been given. And I treasure that. I treasure my faith more than anything else that I have in this world. And if you don't have that, I want to challenge you to just revisit that. Just revisit the Bible and have those conversations, because I believe there is hope there for everyone who will seek, who will ask, and who will knock. And so that's the foundational thing, is hope. Seek that on a daily basis, and don't ever neglect it, and don't ever take it for granted if you have it. Don't ever, kind of just brush it to the side. I spend every day, I spend the very first part of the morning in Scripture and in prayer. And I do that because I know how important that is for me to endure life. So that's what I do every morning. I say every day spend some amount of time strengthening your physical body and your mind also. That's a priority for me. After the first part of my morning, I give the best part of myself to prayer and to Scripture and that foundational element of hope, and then I leave from there, and it's a non-negotiable. I'm going to do something to train myself physically. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to spend some time at the gym. I'm going to go for a bike ride. I'm going to go kayaking, something like that. Every single day, it's a non-negotiable. It doesn't always have to be super hard, but just do something to sweat every day at least. Yeah, that's kind of how I live my life. And when I'm done with that, then I'm prepared to enter into work and enter in with my team and grow there. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah.
That's how I live.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on this show. You were amazing. And I can't say thank you enough. So thanks.
It's my pleasure, Gina. I'm really thankful for the opportunity.
And for everyone that's listening, please like, share, comment, subscribe, become a Substack member, and subscribe to that, because you get free chapters from the book. You get chapters from the podcast. It's completely free. There's no cost. So go on over to that and elevate your life, your mindset, and I'll see you guys all next week. Thank you.